Hello, my name is Josh and I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons for both players and DMs. And I am currently enjoying a +2 to my armor class and a +2 bonus to my dex saves. Why? Cover. Something is blocking you from seeing all of me. This is a rule that tends to get overlooked in many D&D games, or at least used inconsistently, from my experience. One would think in a world where your characters are being attacked multiple times per day that you would jump at the chance to help them, to give them a free defensive benefit, but we don't always see that. No, there's something to the way we play this game that just makes us neglect cover. Maybe it's too many distractions on your turn, maybe there's a perceived lack of incentive, maybe it's a pacing issue, or the fact that cover isn't actually on the character sheet. Or maybe this isn't the case at your table and you get to use cover all the time. But I'm willing to bet that last one is a rarity. In any case, I think it's worth discussing. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, if the target of an attack is behind a barrier such as a fence, foliage, or if they're peeking around a corner, they get a benefit based on how much of them is obscured. There are 3 degrees of cover and you benefit from only one at a time, applying the best bonus, but only that bonus. First is half cover, meaning roughly half the creature is obscured. Think of a creature standing behind a fence, a low stone wall, a fallen tree, stuff like that. The creature gets a +2 bonus to its AC and dex saves. If we move that up to 3/4 cover, almost the entire creature is blocked. Think of an arrow slit, shooting from behind a corner, or through a partially open door. The bonus here increases to a +5. And finally, if you're behind total cover, you simply can't be targeted by spells or attacks. It's funny because if I told you, oh, I'm gonna give you a magic item, it grants a +5 to your AC, a +5 to dex saves, it doesn't require attunement, and it's not cursed, you would think I'm tricking you, because that's awesome. So why not with cover? Well, from where I'm floating, I can think of 3 main reasons. Number 1 is the medium. If your table uses theater of the mind, I could foresee some issues happening there. Like, if the DM is failing to describe sources of cover within the environment, players could be put in a tough spot. So even if you're hoping to take advantage of cover, you might find yourself having to invent or embellish a source of cover within the scene based on a limited description. The player has to make a case now for why cover should apply and be available based on very limited information, and this can feel kind of metagamey. Number 2 is perspective. If the game is played with miniatures but the map is on a 2D plane, that has its own challenges. Here we may have a visual aid, but due to the dimension we're playing with, a literal bird's eye view, we may fail to notice sources of cover in the environment that are literally right under our noses. Because we're so busy taking in the entire scene, plotting out our turn, we fail to account for our own character's line of sight and what their perspective of the combat is. Number 3 is DM input. It could be that the DM is restrictive, what some might call stingy, or forgetful when it comes to cover, either shooting the players down when they try to apply the bonus, or forgetting to have their monsters take cover at all. Also, if the DM or players are new, they might not even know the rule exists in the first place. You're welcome, by the way. To be clear, I'm not here to tell you how to run your game. Take that as a blanket statement. You might not include cover on purpose, and that's fine. What I will say is that cover can be a great tool to help you get more out of your combats. When you're designing your battle maps, you can use cover to create areas on the board that offer a tactical advantage. Here, we see this platoon of kobolds have a commanding view of the cavern. This elevated rocky ridge offers half cover against attacks from below. The players have a choice: try and attack with this penalty or climb up the cliff. In a game where plenty of combats turn into this gridlocked, immobile blob in the middle of the map, shouldn't we be encouraging our players to move around, to take the high ground? It worked out for Obi-Wan.
Be sure and remember what Bert the Turtle just did, friends, because every one of us must remember to do the same thing. That's what this film is all about. Duck and cover.
Sometimes the best way to teach players a mechanic is to have your monsters take advantage of it first. Here we have a combat set in a farmer's field. These goblins will immediately dash up to this fence, and the DM can describe as they duck behind the wooden beams and take cover. Be sure to tell the players about the goblins' bonus from their cover. Now the heroes can run up to the fence, negate the goblins' AC bonus, and then take cover for themselves. They'll feel super clever for doing this and are more likely to make it a habit. You can also encourage players to make their own cover. Here we have a tavern brawl. As a DM, you could have the enemy side start things off by flipping a table over and ducking behind it. The players will see this and they might think, well, I can do that too. These are just a few off-the-cuff ideas I have on how to emphasize cover in your games. So here are my final recommendations. If you're a player, talk to your DM. Talk to them about cover and what their expectations are for this mechanic. Nothing wrong with a conversation. And beyond that, at the start of each of your turns, try to imagine what your character is seeing from their own perspective. If you, the player, are 6'1", you're gonna see the world a little differently than your typical short king halfling. If you're the DM, don't be afraid to gently remind your players about the benefits of cover, and have your more intelligent monsters use it against them. Think about cover when designing encounters to add another layer to your combats. This way you can naturally adjust the difficulty, give the players more cover for an easier fight, or give the monsters more cover to make things a bit tougher. And beyond that, take a look at the battle map before the start of your combat and note a couple different places the monsters could hide. And similar to the players, picture the map through the eyes of your monsters. Have your ogre hide behind a very small tree for a more humorous demonstration. By implementing a few of these tricks, you can make sure that when it comes to remembering this rule, you're covered. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I covered this topic well enough, and I hope you learned something or entertained, or ideally both. If there's a topic you want me to feature on my channel, let me know. Otherwise, you can continue to expect a mix of DM and player content. Thank you so much for watching. On the left here is a video recommended by YouTube, and on the right here is a playlist of how I run D&D monsters. Enjoy.